Hello there, and welcome to March, Frankie Sets Some More. I'm Frankie Picasso, your host, and I'm here with my colleague and friend, Mr. Brent Marchant.
Hey there, how are you?
I think we're all doing great. It's a nice sunny day. It looks like spring is going to sprung.
That works for me.
Is that right? I think so. Sounds good. Sounds pretty good to me too. I like it. All right.
Well, that's perfect. It's perfect weather to come to what is essentially the high holidays of the movie season this weekend. So we've got some good stuff to talk about, a few new movies, and then we'll go to the Oscars.
Cool.
So we're going to start off actually with an Oscar nominee, The Eternal Memory, which is in the up for the Best Documentary Feature. This is an interesting fusion of two different genres. It's a documentary and a love story. It's something you don't really see very often, although this is actually the second one we've seen in recent months. We also saw this mixed with the movie American Symphony not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this film tells the story of renowned Chilean journalist Augusto Góngora and his relationship with his wife, actress Paula Urrutia. Góngora established a reputation for himself during the years of the Augusto Pinochet regime in Chile, reporting on a lot of the nasty things that were going on at a time when there was a lot of press censorship also. And when the regime was thrown out in 1990, he became very influential as an author, helping to reestablish Chile's artistic and cultural heritage. And together, his wife also eventually became the country's Minister of Culture and the Arts. So they were really a very high-profile power couple, but more than that, they were very much in love. I mean, that's just plainly obvious from every scene you see in this movie. The unfortunate part is that when he turned 62, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it then became his wife's almost full-time job just taking care of him as he went through this decline. Now, the thing that's interesting is that in this story, a lot of times when people develop a condition like that, they want to go into isolation and not make themselves very public. Having been a journalist and an author and a high-profile person in Chilean society, Góngora said, no, I want people to see our story, particularly in terms of letting people know what it's like living with this, what it's like caring for someone with this.
So hard.
The impact on a couple, that's been together for a number of years. And also, to help just generally to raise awareness about the condition itself. So that eventually led to the making of this documentary, which is filmed over a number of years, showing their lives together and everything that Paulina does to preserve as much of his memory for as long as possible. And they go through a number of exercises that they do. And, she's very diligent in terms of making sure that they work at this, that this is not something that they just let slide away.
It's a real exercise in love.
Yeah, I mean, and also, not just for them, but also for the
everybody. Like a book on this is how you love somebody.
Exactly. And, what you end up seeing here is a story that is really been compared to many of the great screen romances over the years, but told in a documentary format, which is kind of an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie that will simultaneously warm your heart and break your heart as you watch his story unfold. It's really quite moving. Made a very, very good choice as a nominee for documentary feature. It is available for streaming right now. In fact, that's pretty much where it's been available for most of the time it's been out. I'm really glad that it got this nomination because I think it will do a lot to help raise the profile of the picture.
Yeah.
This is, I think, definitely excuse me, the kind of movie that people should see. Not just, for those who are actually going through a situation like this, but for those who may be faced with it someday.
Yeah.
It provides a helpful guide, I guess you would say, in terms of learning how to deal with circumstances like this and showing how it's possible to keep the love in the relationship, even in the face of this kind of, debilitating disease. I like this movie a lot.
I can tell. It's interesting. It's March, not February, but all of our movies have to do with love. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. And,
There's different aspects of it, but
and I'm glad to see this as a trend in the documentary genre, because you've had a lot of entertainment movies and you've had a lot of war movies and investigative journalism and so forth, but personal profiles in terms of romance is something that you haven't really seen much of
I was
in
kind
this
of thinking of
genre.
I want to call him Michael Keaton because it's not Michael Keaton. What's his name? The young, I was gonna say the young guy. He's not young anymore, he's our age. That has oh my God, Frankie, come on. Big TV star, Back to the Future. We just did a
Oh, Michael J. Fox.
J. Fox,
Yeah.
yeah. Kind of his documentary on his condition
Yes.
and all of that. Very reminds me of that in a way.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a documentary. It's hard. It's hard to show your life, and it's hard to show yourself not 100%.
And to be that vulnerable,
Yeah.
in terms of, making the picture very plainly known to the public.
Yeah.
I mean, this is somebody who was, Gongora was somebody who was seen very much as a hero during the Pinochet regime.
Mhm.
And, he stood up to authorities at a time when it was difficult, and he was a driving force in helping to make sure the word got out about what was going on in the country. And to see someone go from that kind of almost heroic status to a condition where you see him become increasingly frail and forgetful, and and there are times, with a lot of Alzheimer's patients, when their frustration gets the better of them and they start acting out. And you even see that here to a certain extent, even with being in the company of his loving wife.
Yeah.
You
Hard.
do.
It's really hard on the caregiver. People forget about the caregiver a lot, but that role is a significant role, and it's for the rest of her life or their lives together. It's not like she can just walk away. I mean, she could if she was not a nice person, but I've only known one other woman that really cared enough. Like, her husband had a really bad stroke, and to change a diaper on him because
Yeah,
in the beginning, before he was getting everything back, she had to do that. And I don't know very many people that would do that.
exactly. And she definitely, stood by his side through all of this, as difficult as it was. And I mean, this is someone who had, her own very vibrant career as an actress. Even, she even in the early stages of his illness, she tried to keep that going as much as she could. She would bring him to rehearsals and so forth so that he could watch and even sometimes participate in the rehearsals a little bit. But it's something where you reach a point where it becomes so all-consuming that you even have to set your own needs and desires aside to care for someone like this. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of stamina. And this movie brings all of that to the fore.
Beautiful.
So I like this one a lot. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5. And I wish it the best of luck on Oscar night.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Totally.
So keeping in the vein of caregiving, our next film is a new independent release from Mexico called Totem, which tells the story of how a 9-year-old girl is reacting to the impending decline of her dad. He's a young man. He's a gifted painter, but he's developed a very debilitating form of cancer. And he doesn't want her to see him the way he's declined. So she's not in his life very much, and she thinks it's her fault.
Yeah.
She thinks that it's she's done something or that he doesn't like her. But he tries to convince her that no, that's not the case. It's just, this is the way his life has been going.
Nothing like a little girl and their daddy.
No, exactly. You know, and this is all told through the story of a day in the life of those two and their family as they're preparing a birthday celebration for the young man, which he's reluctant to want to attend because he doesn't want everybody to see how he's declined either. Yet the thing is, the family is very uh, concerned to make sure this event comes off because this may be the last one. And they want it to be a celebration of his life. And they want him to know how much everybody around him cares about him. So it's in many ways a story that's kind of, sort of mundane where you see the whole family getting together to do the preparations for a birthday party. But when you consider the underlying intent for the party itself,
Yeah.
it really has a tremendous impact. And the other thing I liked a lot about this movie is that um, it's potentially a real downer, tearjerker, and so forth, given the circumstances for
Yeah.
both people. But the film very cleverly has integrated a lot, and I do mean a lot, of comic relief into this picture. So you see, the characters having their own little chuckles over things, but I think it's really more for the audience than anything else, and the fact that it takes a lot of the pressure off of the viewer to give them some breathing room to be able to enjoy this story that ordinarily they might not be able to, given the nature of the subject matter.
Yeah.
So,
It's so funny, how our subconscious just reacts. You don't know these people, but we cry for them.
oh yeah,
It's crazy how that works. But when you think about having a celebration of life, I mean, it's beautiful to have a celebration of life with somebody while they're alive and
yeah.
hear you, see you, appreciate all your gestures, rather than you're dead and it goes by you. We don't know if you're there or not. Yeah.
Well, and it also provides an opportunity to make amends too, to
Yeah.
let his daughter know that, okay, yes, maybe I'm going, but I'm not leaving you because you did
What?
something wrong or I don't like you. I love you dearly. I just was, embarrassed about how I had declined. And I
Right.
didn't want you to see me that way. I
Yeah.
didn't want you to remember me that way, even
Yeah.
though she's insistent upon seeing him because she knows there may not be that many more opportunities
Yeah.
for him to see her, you know. Um, but one of the things like I really can't stress enough about this movie is how effective the humor is. There's one scene where one of the dying man's sisters hires a shamanic practitioner woman to come in and smudge the house. And it's hilarious just in terms of the way they carry it out. I mean, you know, in the midst of all of this, potentially downer chaos, you've got this wildly nutty scene going on,
That's hilarious.
and it's really good. I really enjoyed this picture a lot. It received a few awards season nominations. I wish it had gotten more. It also only played in theaters briefly. I believe it's
I
going to
couldn't even
become
find it, tell you the truth.
it's going to be coming to streaming, I think, pretty soon because I mean, having the virtue of the awards nominations behind it, that'll help to boost its
Yeah.
chances. So when it does become available, I really encourage people to see this because I think they'll find that it's an enjoyable, it's an uplifting, and yet bittersweet kind of picture.
Yeah.
That again, like the eternal memory, it provides people with, kind of a guide in terms of how to deal with situations like this, how to conduct yourself, how to work your way through it, how to say the things you want to say while you have the chance, that
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yep.
Um, and it moves along actually at a pretty good pace for a movie that deals with sort of everyday matters in many ways. It's a relatively short movie. It's I think about an hour and a half. But the thing is, I mean, it's a very intense hour and a half, and you'll definitely come out of it having, I think, very mixed feelings about it. But you'll be glad that you saw it. Um, when I went to see it, I went with my partner. He was not crazy about the idea of wanting to see this. He came out of it elated. He said, "I'm really glad that you brought
Yeah.
me to see this because this is the kind of picture that we all need to see, particularly, as the years start to add up,
Yeah.
even though in this case you're dealing with two comparatively young people who are going through the kinds of things that you would hope that nobody that young should have to deal with.
Yeah. It's funny though. Every time I saw my dad, could be the last one. It was like that lasted for 20 years. No, we got to go. It could be the last time we see him. The
So
cat
this is another one that I liked a lot, and I'll give it 4 out of 5.
beautiful.
It might take you a little while before it's available where you're at, but when it does become available, go see it. I think you'll really enjoy it.
All right. Very fun.
Okay, so next we have a new film that just came to Netflix starting last week. This is a very much anticipated film. It's a sci-fi movie called Spaceman, featuring, of all people, Adam Sandler. When I first heard that, it seemed to me a case of miscasting, but
Oh,
he's
to be
actually,
Spaceballs instead of
yeah, I mean,
Spaceman.
but this is actually it's a fairly serious film.
It is a
Tells the story of an astronaut who's on a solo deep space mission. But the thing is, he's distracted while he's there because he's having some difficulties with his wife back on Earth, and being so far away. I mean, how can you realistically work things out, when you're 5 planets away? I mean, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And he wasn't even really he wasn't really aware he was kind of having problems with his wife.
Exactly. Yeah, he was so focused on this mission that
He
he
was
sort of
unaware.
allowed himself to become unaware of, what was going on in his relationship. So he ends up encountering an ancient space alien who looks like a giant spider, and the two of them have sort of like their own form of therapy sessions
Mhm.
to help him work through this. And it's an interesting evolution to see the way the nature of their dialogue evolves, and
Yeah.
how this perfectly, previously unknown character helps him come to realize things about himself, and how to essentially, reboot them and get them back on track.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it's interesting in the fact that the movie has a lot of allusions to other sci-fi films. I mean, you see references in here to Interstellar, to Solaris, to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I
And
love
this
this movie. I loved
Yeah,
it. A
and
lot of
and there
people
was
don't like it.
even
I don't
and
care.
there were even a number of little passing references to the lyrics of David Bowie's Space Oddity,
Yeah.
which I found really a very curious way of taking something lyrical and making it visual.
Like
And
people are expecting Adam Sandler to be funny Adam Sandler. It's not funny Adam Sandler. And
no,
he's done several
no.
serious films and he's always really good in them too. He's a very emotionally aware person, I
Well,
think.
he's been working very hard in recent years to try and make the transition from doing the kind of silly comedies he was best known for into more serious fare. And in the previous films he's done, I don't think he's quite picked the right parts to do it. But this time, he seems to step into this role more effectively than in some of the other movies. And I think he did a lot to help kind of turn the corner in terms of reinventing himself as an actor. It's obvious too, the fact that, you know, you had some fairly heavy hitter co-stars who were willing to work with him, like
You know,
Paul Dano and Carey Mulligan and Lena Olin and Isabella Rossellini.
yeah. And his daughter made a little brief appearance there too, I noticed.
Yes.
But
Now, the one thing that did puzzle me a little bit about this movie is that there were times when there were some changes in tone that I found a little odd, where it seemed to be trying to be serious, but at the same time also kind of trying to be sort of cheeky and campy in a very low key kind of way. And it made me kind of wonder, well, what exactly kind of mood is the director going for here? So that was one of the things that's puzzled me. It puzzled a lot of critics and some in other
which scene
movies.
was that? I
Well, for example, there were those scenes in the movie where you show Adam Sandler having to engage in commercials,
oh right, that part.
sponsors,
Yeah,
and that, I mean, they completely changed the tone. I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And I think
uh,
that was part of if I was, the way I looked at that that was what his payment for being able to go on this.
Yeah.
He had to do this other crap that a lot of people have to do, right? So that his dream, what he thought was his dream, job or whatever could happen. So you have to placate, the powers that be.
And yet when you see a lot of these, TV commercials and so forth that he does, they're kind of really very drastically different in mood from
Yeah,
the
I mean, even that
rest
one
of the
he did where
story.
if you want to do this, you just do it like that, blah blah blah. Like he did no emotion in it at all. Like it was just like, okay, I have to say this, I'll just say it. That was kind of interesting.
And then there was also
I
the
really loved it.
spider, and I mean,
Yeah,
I appreciated the dialogue and the conversation between the
beautiful.
two of them, but the,
Island.
the special effects of the spider were really, I mean, they looked like something off of Mystery Science Theater at times.
I
And
think maybe
again, that
and
kind of
so did
made me wonder.
the ship looked really old too, right? So I think maybe that was part of the allure is well, the other thing was he started writing this in college. He wrote this in college and then he picked it up and started to rewrite it like last year kind of thing, right? So I think maybe when back in college, how many 40 years ago, it
Yeah,
could have been like that,
yeah.
So maybe in his mind, I'm doing my young version in today's movie, maybe, I don't know. We don't
So
know what's in his head, but I thought it was cool. I liked it. I liked how he became self-actualized in a way in
yes,
terms of love and in terms of relationships. And, he was alone for 6 months and it didn't bother him until he met, you know, um, the alien. And then all of a sudden he didn't want to be alone. And the alien was showing him things that he didn't want to see. But then, like most men, sat with him for a little while and went, oh, you might be right.
well, the other thing that was interesting too is that when they reach the destination of the space anomaly that he's up there to investigate, they find that it's like a portal to essentially accessing the infinite range of possibilities
Right.
for being able to carry things out. And that particularly intrigues me as someone who's a student of conscious creation because, that theory maintains that your beliefs, they chart your reality and that you have an infinite number of options open to you at any time. The same kind of message that was conveyed in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's a movie that makes you think in some ways. The only thing that I was a little bit really troubled by was, the kind of variation in tone in terms of the way it got you to that ultimate conclusion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this one kind of a conditional recommendation. I would give it 3 out of 5.
I like it. I would suspend obviously there's not a big spider out in space, so
Yeah.
suspend that.
How do we know?
We don't know. But I think the other important part of that movie, I don't know. I loved it. Like I just fell in love with it. And like my son had said to me, oh, you should see that movie. Like it's kind of slow. It's a slow burner, but it's okay in the end, kind of thing. When he tried to trap the particle,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, isn't that just like a human?
Oh, yeah.
To put something in a jar and try to take it back home, whether it dies or not in the jar, we don't know, but the thing couldn't be contained anyway. So, but that was just such a human response to something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it was
Yes.
that got me. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing it. You just want to trap
It's
it.
it's interesting to see how the reactions have been in among critics about this one. It's very it's been a very divisive film with critics. I mean, a lot of them have either really loved it or really hated it.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
then
really liked it.
there's some of us kind of in the middle who were sort of like, well, I like certain things about it. There's other things that made me a little puzzled, but you know, if you're looking for something that's a little more substantive in terms of the nature of the material, um, yeah, this one's worth a
I thought I
watch.
had a good message, a really good message for a lot of people. A lot of people need to hear that.
Yes,
They needed to see that, when he said, I never saw you, you're in front of me, but I never saw you, and now I see you. And
yes,
so many people in relationships are like that. You take them for granted. You just expect them to be there. And he goes, wow, if I could do it again, I do it so differently. And we want to think that we would, but we don't know because
Well, and I think
we're
that's an
selfish
important
by
message.
nature.
Yeah, I think that's really important, an important message in this day and age where the sense of connection between people because of social media and
Yeah.
just the whole electronic way of communicating has really led us to become disconnected and detached from one another. So
How many
how do
times
you
have you
really
been to
make a
dinner?
relationship work under circumstances like
How
that?
many times have you people out there been to dinner and you're on your phone and you've got people sitting around you, or you're watching other tables and they're on their phone in their own world, communicating with people who aren't there, who aren't as
Yep,
important as a person sitting in front of you
yep,
all the time.
exactly.
Even when you go to a store and you've got merchandise in your hand and you want to buy it, and the phone rings, and that person on the phone is more important to them than the person standing right there with the money in their hand going, I'd like to buy this, please. I'd like to buy this, please.
Exactly.
It's such a disconnect.
Exactly.
Why are the people over there more important?
And I thought some of the allusions to space oddity were interesting too, in the fact that, here he's in space and his wife is home and depressed and she's pregnant on top of it, and it just reminded me of the line from the song about, planet Earth is blue and there's nothing I can do. I mean, in
Yeah,
this case, I mean, the whole planet wasn't blue, it was just her, but she was definitely embodied that sentiment. And here he is all this distance away, and there's still no connection going on between the two of them.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I thought that was a very interesting. I don't know if I'm alone on this point because I haven't really seen anyone else pick up on that particular point and talk about it. But there's a number of different points in this film where you see like lines from that song come to life.
And I found it
And it's
kind of
interesting because
selfish.
the director is best known for being a maker of music videos. I
Okay.
mean, that kind of
Yeah,
that in
exactly.
the back of my mind that
Yeah.
okay, he must be thinking along these lines too.
But I also thought it was selfish of her to want to leave him in the middle of this journey when he's so far away and he can't do anything about anything. And I get why she would want to do it, but I kept thinking this is not the time. Like his boss came to see her, and like it's not the time. Like that's not the time.
Exactly.
When somebody is like could die in any second. You don't know what's going to happen or never make it back home. And that's his last thing. Like his wife leaves him. It
Exactly.
just
Well,
weird.
and then she refuses to take his calls. She
Yeah,
won't talk to him either,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
So it
So
was selfish on both ends, but I understand where she's coming from because he didn't give her anything either. But just the timing is like there's a right time to do things, and that wasn't the right time to do it.
she probably saw it as a very convenient time to do it though
Yes,
too,
of course. You don't have to answer to
which,
me.
makes her just as guilty as him in some ways, in that
Exactly.
regard. So
Yeah. But they smartened up, so good for them.
So along the same lines as that film, we have another one
Yeah.
that came out last summer and played in theaters for like probably a week, and then disappeared, but it's
Yeah.
available for streaming now. It's a comedy called Shortcomings. And this tells the story of a San Francisco couple that's been having some difficulties. His life hasn't been quite turning out as he hoped for. Hers is beginning to surge, and that's increasingly causing a disconnect between the two of them. And then she learns that she's been offered an opportunity to take an internship in New York, and she wants to take it. And he sort of reluctantly goes along with it and says, well, maybe this is a good time for us to take a break from one another and see what happens. And it's while they're both on their own that they begin to explore different sides of themselves that they hadn't really been aware of or hadn't explored before. And it's interesting because, suddenly, in his case in particular, very much like the Spaceman,
Yeah, very much like Space.
um, he's learning that, well, if things haven't turned out the way I wanted to, who am I supposed to blame for it? I mean, I'm kind of pointing fingers everywhere else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet it was actually coming back on him in terms of understanding why his career didn't go the way it did, why his romantic life has been deteriorating, why his attempts at exploring new options have been going the way they did. and he's got a lesbian friend who's like a sounding board for him.
Yeah.
And she had been kind of going the same way herself, but then she turned things around, and she's there to kind of, point out, well, you can fix this, but you've got to be the one to take responsibility to do this.
Mhm.
I find this interesting in the fact that this is all done in the context of a comedy, which, a lot of times you don't see comedies addressing this kind of stuff, especially those of a romantic nature.
Yeah.
But this one does, I think, a really good job on it. And I was kind of surprised to see that this film didn't get a wider reception than it did. I mean, it came out, I believe, in August of last year, which, as we all know, is sort of like a cinematic wasteland for a distribution time for most movies. Um, Granted, there were some things on this that I think could have been tidied up a bit, but this is the first, effort from director Randall Park. And, we all have a learning curve when it comes to
Yeah.
these sorts of things.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really very insightful ideas that come out of this in terms of
Yeah.
relationship, taking responsibility. There's also a lot of stuff having to do with um, examining the role of uh, Asian ethnic consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite a bit of that in terms of,
There was.
is it okay to want to date outside your own ethnicity, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, okay, there was 2 points. The one, overarching theme for me was you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Yep.
And so that was a biggie. He didn't want her until he couldn't have her. And then he goes, well, wait, because he really was interested in, the blonde, blue-eyed,
Mhm.
North American version. He thought that would be kind of fun to try. And when she had a boyfriend, also American looking, he was ticked off that, he just likes Asian things.
Yeah.
So it's like a double standard. He just likes Asian things, but I like the blonde blue-eyed girl. So that was kind of interesting too. But his best friend, she's been in a couple of movies. I've recognized her from a few movies. I like her. She's a pretty cool chick.
Well, and I really like the guy who played the lead too.
Yeah.
He was the quote unquote robot who appeared in the sci-fi movie After Yang. And I
Okay.
was really impressed with his performance there. And then to see him here in a very different kind of role shows to me that he's got quite a range that hasn't been tapped.
Yeah. Yeah. And in English too. I get maybe he
Yeah.
grew up there. Maybe they all did. I don't know. But yeah,
So
this is
I
good. I
really
like it.
enjoyed this one. It's to me, it's one of those, again, little known gems that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
definitely worth giving a look. It is available for streaming on a number of platforms, so
I
it's
think I saw it on
definitely widely
Netflix.
available right now.
The,
And
the
I would give it 3.5
Yeah, I
stars.
give it 3.5 too. I think that, and that's what I said at the beginning. They all had something to do with love, but like just a different place on that wheel. Uh, like
And the
blue on
sidekick
blue.
friend I thought was hilarious. I
Oh,
mean,
she's awesome.
some of her one-liners were
But
just
she plays a similar
bust a
role
gut.
in every movie I've seen her in. She was also in, oh, what was that movie with the four girls, four
Oh,
Asian?
Joyride.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joyride, and something else I saw her in, but similar role for her. Maybe she's a comic. I
I
might
think
be
she
watching the
is.
back
Yeah,
before.
her name is Sherry Cola. Um, and she reminds me a lot of Margaret Cho
Oh, yeah,
in terms of the style of comedy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Both of them.
So yeah, give this one a look. It's like I say, it's widely available now, so go see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, go see it. Okay.
Okay, so before we take our trip to the Oscars, I got one quick little thing I want to throw in here. I'm currently attending the Chicago European Union Film Festival, which is featuring films from Belgium this year. And the one that I've seen that I really liked is this romantic comedy called the Experience of Love. Is the English
Past love.
translation?
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, it's a story about a couple that's having trouble getting pregnant, and her obstetrician says, "Well, that's because you're both stuck with past love syndrome, and the way to get past that and free up your psychological block that's preventing the physical side from working is to each sleep with all of your previous exes." And that in itself just opens it up to all kinds of comedic possibilities. It's very cleverly written. I believe it's on its way to getting a US distribution at some point because I did see an American distribution company logo at the beginning. So when it comes out, go see it. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. And I wanted to let our viewers know too that I'm going to be preparing a blog about my attendance at the film festival with everything that I saw. It'll probably be out sometime next week. So keep an eye out for that if you're looking to see.
Saw you on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. You and Trevor.
Oh, and speaking of my blog and my website, I just want to let viewers know also that my site is currently going through some maintenance, so they may periodically have some access troubles, either prevented or slow. But again, that's supposed to be repaired by next week. So
Okay.
I'm still there. I haven't gone anywhere.
All right. Yeah. You want to make sure people.
So now it's off to the Oscars. We got our predictions for the top 6 categories. Starting with the Best Actor category, which has Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. And the winner is?
Probably going to be Cillian Murphy.
Well, we need to scroll down to the next page.
Oh, sorry.
The winner, I believe, is going to be Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. It's just such an outstanding performance. He's been winning just about everything during awards season. He's got some competition from Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, some very faint competition from Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction, but I don't think that either one of them has got quite enough momentum to put them over the top. I know in Giamatti's case that the distribution company has been doing a lot of campaigning and spending a lot of money on, from what I heard, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to catch Murphy.
I think Giamatti was doing Giamatti.
Yes,
he's done that a few times.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we weren't seeing anything. We really weren't seeing a performance that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that is the one thing that's kind of working against him. Whereas with Murphy, you're seeing him in a performance that you've never seen him in before.
Yeah. I love Jeffrey Wright.
Murphy is showing a range here that he hasn't previously shown in other roles, and I think he really deserves this Oscar.
I agree with that.
Okay, so next we have Best Actress. And would you like to do the honors?
Sure. So you have Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller, Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. Who will it be?
Okay, and then when I come up with my winner, I'm doing something here I have never done in any one of my Oscar predictions in all the years I've been doing these. It's too close to call, in my view, at this point.
I would go with that as well. That's who I was going to say.
I don't mean to make it sound like I'm doing a cop-out here, but I mean, between Lily Gladstone and Killers of the Flower Moon and Emma Stone and Poor Things, it's a virtual toss-up at this point. Now, if I had to pick a winner, I would pick Emma Stone.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I think she's.
I like Emma. I like Lily Gladstone. I saw her in another movie the other night, and it still seemed like Lily Gladstone. So
yeah.
You've never seen Emma Stone like this.
No, I mean just the range of material she had to pull off in this film really sets her apart. And I think it's the kind of role that I think she really needs to win for to establish her legacy in her career, because even though she's already won an Oscar, and that's the one thing that could be working against her because it wasn't that long ago, even though she won an Oscar for La La Land, it was a good performance, but I wouldn't call it a great performance. Not certainly on the same level as her role in Poor Things.
No, but is anybody on that level? If you look at this, I look at Annette Bening. Naiad was excellent. She did a great job in Naiad. I have to admit, I loved her in it. But the rest, yeah.
Well, I mean, with Carey Mulligan, for example, I think what hurt her is that she had a lousy script. I mean, she's a terrific actress. She did a great job of making the most out of this. But I think the poor quality of the script is going to work against her. And in the case of Sandra Hüller, um, I thought, if anything, she should have been nominated for her supporting performance in The Zone of Interest. I thought she was much better there than here. Um, but what do I know?
I like Percy. I like Percy. Let's see what happens in the supporting actor role.
Okay, so in the supporting actor category, we have Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. And the winner, in my view, will be Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. He's won virtually everything all throughout awards season. He gives a performance here that reveals acting abilities I never knew he had. He was just outstanding in the part, and this is a very richly rewarding win that he's going to get for this. I don't see anybody else being able to catch him.
I did like De Niro in Flowers of the Moon. I thought he did an
Yes.
outstanding job in that.
Yes, I thought Robert De Niro was quite good, and I thought Mark Ruffalo was quite good.
Yeah.
Sterling K. Brown, I'm kind of baffled why they even nominated him, because I mean, it's a very capable performance, but award worthy? I'm not really sure.
Gay guy? I don't know.
And as far as Barbie is concerned, I was not a very big fan of that movie, and it just seems weird to nominate Ken and not nominate Barbie.
I know.
Very odd. So
yeah.
Okay, so then in supporting actress, I'll let you do the honors.
Hey, Emily Blunt, again, Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple, America Ferrera, Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nyad, and Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers.
And the winner going away is going to be Davine Joy Randolph.
I would have said America Ferrera.
When I saw The Holdovers, which is a movie again that I was not terribly hot about, I thought she was far and away the best thing about it. I looked at her performance and I said at the time, well, she's definitely going to get awards nominations plenty for this. And then as the season has unfolded, she's she's walked away with everything so far.
Really? Yeah. Excellent. Good for her.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that she's the prohibitive favorite. It's a lock. I don't see anybody coming up to challenge her. If there was anybody else in the category who I would have considered giving it to, I mean, I really was very impressed with Jodie Foster. It's the best performance she's given in a very long time.
Yeah, it was really good. I still have to go with America. She gave a performance in that thing that is still playing.
Yeah, and that monologue of hers when she talks about women empowerment, that's a classic.
Classic.
And I was also very impressed with Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple again, which is another movie I didn't really care that much for.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised of why they nominated Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a capable performance, but again, award-worthy.
Capable. Yeah.
I thought if you were going to recognize somebody from that film in this category, if anything, it should have gone to Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I thought gave the stronger supporting performance, but she's just been completely overlooked all award season. To me, there's also been a very big, for me, noticeable snub in this category that they did not nominate Claire Foy for All of Us Strangers. I thought that was a tremendous performance, and virtually nobody talked about it all award season long. I suppose in some ways it shouldn't be surprising because the Oscars snubbed that movie completely, which I just went away shaking my head from it. How did that movie not get any nominations? It was one of my favorite films of the year.
Interesting though that Killers of the Flower Moon and you don't see Leonardo anywhere.
No, and the thing is, I mean, I think he could have gotten nominated in that category if they had made some, alterations. I wouldn't have nominated Bradley Cooper, for example. I mean, I thought he was hammy and overacting throughout the film, and
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I couldn't even watch it all. But I know people who loved it. They loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
it was beautiful to look at, and like I say, I did like Carey Mulligan's performance, but it had so much else going wrong with it that. Okay, so now moving on to Best Director, we have Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Now, this is from a purely artistic standpoint, this is a real powerhouse category. I mean, I'm very happy with 4 of the 5 nominees here. The only one I would have left out would have been Justine Triet, but the winner, though, I think is definitely going to be Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. He's been, circling the blood in the water for a while for winning an Oscar for Best Director for years and hasn't picked it up. But this time I think he's going to get it because this really was his best movie by far. And he really is very deserving of it. And he's pretty much walked away with just about everything in leading up to the Oscars. The other ones in the category, I mean, I was very happy with Scorsese. I was very happy with Yorgos Lanthimos, and I was very happy with Jonathan Glazer. I mean, those were 3 very well-made films by 3 very talented.
It was a difficult film to portray, and I thought it was fabulous.
Yes.
He did a great job.
But look for Nolan to take the award on Oscar night. I think he's going to win going away.
Okay.
And then finally, we have Best Picture. And again, I will let you do the honors.
Oh, thanks. Okay. American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. And the winner.
And at this point, based on everything we've said so far,
I think Oppenheimer?
That the winner is going to be Oppenheimer. I mean, with 13 nominations, it's the most of any picture. I personally, it was my favorite film of 2023. It's just so well made on so many different fronts. And I don't think it has a real lot of serious competition. Artistically speaking, I think, The Zone of Interest and Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon might have a very remote chance of pulling things out. In the case of The Holdovers, the distributor has been, again, doing a lot of campaigning to try and win the Best Picture.
I don't know why they think that's such a great movie. It's an okay movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the lead, the young man, yeah, he was very good in it. But other than that, it's just an ordinary movie as far as I'm concerned.
And the thing is, it was a very episodic movie in terms of like this happened and then this happened and then this happened. And it's like, well, how does all of this connect to one another other than the fact that you've got the same characters?
And what's the message?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it stands a chance, just as like any of the other movies in the category that did not get a Best Director nomination probably don't stand a chance.
It's not a Sideways. It's not, any of it's just not it's not as great. I mean, Jim Oddie did a fabulous job, like in the periodics, like with doing I want to say Ben Franklin, but it wasn't Ben Franklin. It was what was that? Who was the character? John Adams. I think he played John Adams.
Yes.
But yeah, he's done amazing stuff, but this wasn't amazing.
Well, and also I was cable surfing the other night and I came across another movie he was in from about a decade ago called The Ides of March, where he plays a supporting role, and he was great in that. I mean, that was a film where he was completely overlooked for any kind of recognition. But the thing is, I've seen a lot of people being very protectively defensive about The Holdovers, and it's almost like, how dare I criticize it? Well, I mean, if it's such a great film, how come its director, Alexander Payne, didn't get an Oscar nomination?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Payne's work. He's made other films I really like, but this just wasn't one of them. And to try and say that it's, capable of besting Oppenheimer is, to me, just a real stretch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
So those are our winners. We'll see how I do. I mean, I know I'm probably being seen as very kind of non-committal on the Best Actress category, but
they're both amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a winner, but if I had to go with what I felt,
I have to go with
it would be Emma Stone. So.
for sure. I have to go with that.
Um,
I love Lily
um,
Gladstone. Loved her, loved her, loved
yeah.
her. But she was still
Um,
Lily Gladstone.
Now, if viewers want to read more about my analysis of all this, I've got a blog on my website where I go break down each of these 6 categories and go into greater detail about them. So check that out if you want to know more. And I'll have my Oscar scorecard posted on my website next week. So
Hey, you guys, tune in to the Oscars and see what you think. See how right we are. Let us know.
yeah, I'd like to go 6 for 6.
There you go. Yeah. All right.
So
It was great hanging with you guys here.
everybody have a good time. Enjoy the Oscars. Enjoy the blogs. Enjoy the
Hope some
movies.
more good movies come out.
Yep.
I'm looking
Everybody take
forward.
care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.